Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Point. I am your host, Eric Mitchell. It's Wednesday, so everyone should be really, really happy that it's Wednesday. We made it. It's another day. Great show ahead for you today, but let's jump into the news. We've got some crazy things going on that actually aren't corona related. This morning, the president of the United States, I don't need to go further than that, right? You know I'm talking about the president, announced that he gave orders to the United States Navy to shoot and sink any vessels that come towards any one of our ships. Iran has been having their little speedboats come and harass our big destroyers. And for some reason, they have great control and haven't bothered to sink any of them. But yeah, we're not going to deal with that. So the president ordered, I did make a snarky post today that the president said he wanted them to shoot them down. And some people who didn't serve were telling me that, oh my goodness, what can the president shoot down? Well, the president can shoot down whatever he wants. And yeah, you can't shoot boats down. So we'll ask my Air Force guy about boats that fly. But all kidding aside, it was good to hear the president not back down to what Congress wanted, which was to just look weak towards our friends in Iran. Instead, teach them that you don't mess with the U.S. So it's kind of simple. It doesn't matter what side of the table you sit on, left or right. It's the United States of America, and you don't go after our sailors. So anyways, it'll be good target practice. I've been sharing beautiful videos of CWIS and other amazing devices that they have, armament they have aboard these naval devices that will take care of our friends in Iran should they decide to play chicken again. So that is news number one. Now going back to the coronavirus, we heard early this morning that the Senate approved the new financial package. So small businesses will have an ability to get money, but we still have this ongoing issue that it's still being uncovered by our friends at the Associated Press that are talking about all these big businesses. Over 95 businesses now have been identified, big brands with millions, sometimes billions in the bank, took money that they probably shouldn't have. It's kind of ironic that we're dealing with this. When they did ask yesterday at the press conference, the president pushed it down to the SBA and the treasurer. The SBA did not respond. They did say they emailed a list of bullet points, and they included that the loans cited by recent media reports going to large companies comprised less than 10% of loans made. You're not making it any better by saying 10%, only 10%. The small mom and pop businesses would have loved that money because they're truly going for the smaller number, the 20K, the 30K, not maxing out at $10 million like so many of these companies are doing. One of the favorite things I saw that came forward was Senator Martha McSally from Arizona Republican said, she tweeted, "I'm troubled by reports of publicly traded companies with access to capital and bank relationships receiving money quickly, while mom and pop shops can't even get a call back or even a dollar." Yes, huge concerns, right? We're sitting here and we're talking about that. I know we've talked about it on the show most of the week. It's been my pain point, right? We've been talking about it. It was just disappointing to see that this is where we're going with the SBA loans, not what we wanted to do, to see that even the government won't own up. Hopefully this next package has some good regulation in it, so our small businesses, we can keep them around. I'm encouraging people to still support those small businesses that are out there. Let's give them our money. Sorry, Shake Shack, you lost a customer. If I do, I won't tell anybody, and I'll have it Grubhub to me, so at least some independent drivers getting it. But let's jump into some fun news. Let's talk sports. Love talking about sports. And you're like, Eric, there's really nothing to talk about sports. Well, that's not true. If you're a football fan, you know tomorrow we start day one of the NFL draft. Finally, something to talk about. But we've also been dealing with Tom Brady, as we know, a few weeks ago, joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I thought, who would be the best guest to discuss this? So I decided to find the Tampa Bay Buccaneers #1 fan. For sure, he's the #1 fan in Portland, Oregon. He also happens to be the goalkeeper for the Major League Soccer team, the Portland Timbers, and an amazing author and a good friend of mine. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my good bud, Jeff, and Tanilla. Sorry, I always forget people's last names. I suck. I'm like, hey, you, Jeff, come on in. So we're going to bring Jeff in, and we're going to discuss this wonderful topic. What's up, Jeff?
What's going on, Eric? It's a great day. It's a great day to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, my friend.
Grinning ear to ear. You got Gronk now. I mean,
it's been a 2020 has been a very unique year. But when the Bucks are the focal point of the sporting world, and everybody wants to get on the good old Tampa Bay Buccaneers bandwagon, I think that's how 2020 is a little bit different than the normal status quo that we're used to.
Oh, it's so funny. I mean, it's great. I mean, the Tampa Bay Bucks, as a kid who grew up in Orlando, I know you're a kid that grew up in Tampa, to see our Central Florida teams, great. I remember when the Bucks won that Super Bowl. Well, it feels like last year, but it wasn't. It was 2003. They did beat the Raiders. Trust me, the Raiders hate you guys because of it. So it's always entertaining to piss off, Raider fans because, well, they're Raider fans. But, I mean, it's good for your team. It's great for the community. I mean, you do have the best baseball team that does have their headquarters and their spring training is held in Tampa. And I understand that there is another baseball team that actually plays there. But there's a world championship team that does play, also has their spring training and their facility down there. But as a Bucks fan, I mean, how's it feel to have this team? You already had a killer receiving core. Mm-hmm. You finally added a great quarterback. And now you have two good tight ends, right? I mean, your other tight end's not too shabby either.
Yeah, we got three of them. I'm not sure. Hopefully that means that we can make some type of move in the draft where, maybe we're getting some protection or getting some O-line help or maybe finding one of those running backs to add to the arsenal. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting whenever you're cheering for a team that is going for it, then, it adds a little bit of excitement into the offseason. I think it's important, too. None of this happens if Bruce Arians isn't the coach. So I think that, getting Bruce Arians on board last year was massive. And then, hopefully, he's not Bill Belichick, but hopefully this a little bit more of a lighter mood and, things a little bit looser for Gronk and Brady will re-energize them and have a little bit more fun winning in a different way, hopefully. And as you said, our receiving core is top in the league. It's really top in the league. So you add Gronk, you add Brady. Hopefully we can add one of these running backs and, I think the sky's the limit, which is really exciting.
What's funny is I was watching the Barbershop, LeBron's jam that he does on HBO, and it had Lake Oswego's own, two actually Oswego residents were on that. Both of them are professional basketball players. One is the great Kevin Love, who's featured in one of your books, and the other is CJ McCollum, a wonderful starting shooting guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. Can you tell I miss basketball just a little bit? And they were talking, because Gronk was on that episode, and Gronk was talking about how Belichick is just all business and no fun. And he was talking about how even the great Tom Brady walks down the hallway, and if they don't address the coach, he actually stops you and talks to you. And I'm like, it's Tom Brady. Like, he's like the Jeter of football, right? I mean, he's a good guy. No matter what, I mean, he's ridiculously good looking, has a great story, an amazing wife, amazing. I mean, how can you don't like the guy because the team? I mean, and that's the whole thing that I always laugh about, anti-Patriot fans is, I hate Tom Brady. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I actually like Brady. And who doesn't like Gronk? Although, here's my question for you, Jeff. Get back that WWE title now?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a friend who's a Bucks fan. My phone was blowing up yesterday and all the Bucks fans were, wanting to FaceTime and pop champagne with me. But I was talking to one of my friends yesterday about how funny it would be to add a wrinkle into the NFL where the NFL carries over into a WWE title 24/7. So if you make a good tackle and you're able to pin the guy for 1 or 2 seconds, that the title switches over, kind of like the championship belts they have in college whenever they get a turnover. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with that 24/7 title. To be completely honest, that's not my concern. It's just exciting it's exciting for Tampa. And, you talk about Belichick keeping everybody in line and not having any fun. Tampa's a fun city. So hopefully Gronk can keep it under wraps a little bit during the season. But at the same time, I'm excited for those guys to get down there. And it's just big for the city. I beat the Tampa drum a lot and it's just really huge for the city. So it's just an exciting time.
We could tell, but just looking behind you, I mean, you got the Rays, the Bucks, rocking that orange shirt. I mean, come on. I mean, that's bringing back memories. I love it. Love it. Oh, an Arian shirt. Wow, look at you all up to date. Look at you. But I do love the Timbers thing right behind you, too. It's pretty cool,
Yeah, so thank you.
It's good.
Thanks. First long slap.
Man.
It's pretty good.
I mean, it must be hard for you. Again, you were just on last week talking about this, but Thank God for the Jordan documentary. But good news, and I know you're a music guy, so I'm only bringing this up and then we got to go. But did you see the Beastie Boys have a documentary coming out on the 25th of this month on Apple TV?
No way. That's must-see TV.
Oh, I was like,
that'll be good.
Jordan, Beastie Boys. I'm done. Just don't find me. I'll be planted in front of my TV. A very happy boy for my two favorite things on the planet are the Beastie Boys and anything Michael Jordan. So
nice.
And that was a great documentary. Have you had a chance to watch it? I know you got We People.
Yeah. So I got one episode in. Haven't had time to do the second one yet. I'm really trying to space it out and not rush it because the time where you're going to have sports on the TV is pretty limited. So I don't want to cram it and just force it to stay up with social media. I'm kind of taking my own path with it. But it is funny if once the Gronk news broke, if I could get out of my house and go shopping, I probably would have gotten one of those big Jordan cigars and just sat back and enjoyed life for a little bit, man. That's how excited
I do love the text you sent me yesterday. You're like, you're right. I was like, I heard some inside information. There's a reason why the man's training all the time. I do love Gronk and the way he trains with his mom. Come on, that's kind of interesting that his mom.
I mean, he'll fit into Tampa. He'll fit into Tampa very well. He will fit into Tampa really well.
He'll have a great time. But anyways, bud, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to jump on to our next. We can get to the point, but we just had to talk sports, and I thought, who better than the ultimate Tampa Bay fan? I mean, seriously. I mean, do you know any else pro athlete loves his team as much? Okay, maybe CJ with the Browns, but at least the Bucks are better. At least the Bucks have won a Super Bowl. The Browns I think they do that when they play Madden. Maybe.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah, no, I mean, hey, I'm a fan. I'm a fan first, so got to support the team. Got to rep the city.
Well, we'll have to have you back real soon to give us another sports report. We'll just make you our sports reporter. Goalkeeper, or sports reporter for my show.
I'm on it. I got to do a mock draft then. I got to do a mock draft really quick. I've got to drum up my own mock draft.
After this. All right. Okay, bud. You have a great day. Enjoy that beautiful little baby you have, and talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, bud. There we go. That's a hell of a report, right? Come on. How many other shows do you know? Bring in professional soccer players, talk about sports. I don't think there's very many. Anyways, let's jump on and let's get to the point. Let's bring on our first guest. If you were Liquid Lunch earlier today, any other Thursday, Wednesday, she's appeared on there so many times it's hard to narrow down a day. Or you were listening to the Joe Piscopo show just yesterday with our guest, Frank Marino. You heard this guest, and now she's on our show. So we are bringing on Jennifer Bohr-Cuevas. Hopefully I didn't screw up her name like I've done everybody else's names lately. We're going to welcome her to the show. Going to get into some fun subject matter that I think you're all going to want to listen to. Without further ado, let's bring Jennifer into the room. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi. How are you? Thank you for the warm introduction.
It's a long one, I gotta go with the big intro.
It was warm. It was nice and warm.
The last 2 days we've had technical difficulties, so I'm knocking on wood that we don't. But I'm like excited. Everything's going so good. I feel like I'm in Moulin Rouge. Everything's going so great. Coming fresh from another, you came from Liquid Lunch. I mean, my other favorite actually always get caught up watching before I get ready for this show. So I'm always laughing that I'm watching. I love John. He's, I get a lot of news from John when it comes to John is just an incredible. John Tobacco, one of the best. Go check out Liquid Lunch. They're normally on Newsmax due to the coronavirus. They're stuck at home being on Facebook right now. Go check them out, Liquid Lunch TV. But anyways, you were on today. Great interview, by the way. But so I love it that I keep getting lectured. I still get text messages, by the way, that I'm saying people's names wrong. I love this. It's my favorite thing. So
you got my name right. A lot of people say Jennifer Cuevas. It's Cuevas, like the drink mix.
Yeah, I like it. I used to actually work. I actually served with a Marine with the last name Cuevas. So I used to butcher his name too. Don't worry. But he was my roommate for a while, so we fixed that. So I want to jump in and start talking about it. So give everybody a little brief overview of your background. And then we'll just kind of jump in. So I'll just throw it to you.
Sure. And you can hear me okay, right?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. Well, I am a licensed clinical social worker by profession, and I've been in the business, I guess, 26 plus years. Oh my God. I have a private practice on Long Island, and I actually specialized in working with children who have developmental disabilities. But my new career in social work is as a trauma specialist. So I am certified in trauma work, and I work for New York State as a disaster mental health worker. So, and I'm also a broadcast news contributor. So I'm a little busy.
Shoo. So, I mean, you're not busy at all. I mean, there's nothing going on in New York that we need to worry about. So let's jump into that. We had Oz Sultan on last week. He lives up in Harlem, works for the GOP. And Oz was giving us kind of some insight of what he's seeing on the ground in New York. If you wouldn't mind sharing the same, obviously mental health is a big issue, especially with my military background. And I've heard from my friends who are vets that are on the ground there, and even some folks that are volunteering and are at some of the hospitals, that it's a mental beatdown. And I mean, would you agree? And I'd love your feedback as that is one of the bigger issues as we come out of the coronavirus, that the mental health beatdown is what we should be really concerned with.
Oh, yeah, we're there. We are in the recovery phase now. As you know, the disaster cycle is the preparedness, the response phase, and now we are in the recovery phase. And by the time you get to the recovery phase, you are dealing with people who are battle fatigued, really no difference what the disaster is. However, this pandemic really, I think, is a once in a lifetime kind of experience. So yes, we are dealing with frontline workers. I mean first responders, and then I mean our precious medical professionals that are on the front line in the hospitals, at the testing centers, even in the doctor's offices. Yeah, these guys are battle fatigued. And part of my job with the state now is to work with the first responders to become their therapist.
That is outstanding. I love that. I think it's important that people understand how tough this is. And I did make a post earlier today. Just the media keeps calling it a battlefield, comparing it to war. I do think there are some comparisons. I think they take them in the wrong way because, well, it wouldn't be the media if they didn't make it over the top. I know New York is a war zone right now. I mean, obviously, it's to call the whole country a war zone. That's a little stretch for me because I'm like, yeah, I just listen.
Because not every state is going through the same experience. It's really the coastal states that are beaten up.
Yeah, and there was just a report that actually came out over the last few hours that scientists have discovered and traced back that the first corona patient that actually died was in California in January. Yes. So this was, really slipped in under the radar. I mean, let me ask you this. You said you've worked with children as a father of two beautiful children. I mean, what is some advice that you could give to parents to kind of explain this, right? I mean, I remember when 9/11 happened, my older two, I had to explain what 9/11 was. This is something, I mean, the death toll is very high. It's a pandemic, obviously. Advice you could give to parents to kind of keep their kids' heads up. So many are home on Zoom calls. I mean, I heard the greatest thing yesterday. My 13-year-old goes, I feel like life is just one big Zoom call. And I'm like, oh, you're 13. That's what I'm supposed to say, not you. Yeah. So what's your advice to those parents trying to keep their kids, spirits up and dealing with all that?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. And if it's okay with you, I like to answer the question in two ways. Perfect. The first is for our neurotypical kiddos who could probably digest more info than our special needs kiddos. So I'm going to answer it in two ways. So for our neurotypical little guys, what I would suggest is you want to be honest with them. You want to answer their questions while riding the balance or finding the balance of taking out some of the fear and the panic. if that makes sense. So you want to be truthful, but you want to remove the panic, and you want to remain calm yourself as mom and dad, because the kiddos will follow your lead. If they see you calm, then they will follow suit. Now, for our special needs kiddos, and I have a lot of experience with them because I am the mom of a boy with autism. And from my own experience, what I'm doing with my Jessie and my clients who are special needs is I am being honest with them, but I'm also taking extra special care to understand what their cognitive ability is to digest the truth, and then sort of crafting an answer that will be sufficient to them, will educate them, but won't add any more fear or anxiety. And again, with those guys, the calmer you stay as mom and dad, the calmer your kiddos will be. I hope
Yeah, that was I love that answer. Thank you for that. It was one of the questions that we find ourselves asking a lot in our household, talking, with our kids about this. I mean, it's a difficult thing. We've had a lot of tears. Our kids are older. Our youngest is 13. The oldest in the house, she's 15 going on 16. So there's a lot of emotions here. Like I've explained on the show, having a student athlete not allowed to go and compete in track when she's in a scholarship mode. She's driven to go to school, and it's really difficult because it's mental on these kids. She wants to go to college. She has almost a 4.0. She's aiming for some amazing schools back east, NYU, Columbia, pursuing journalism. And it's really difficult when you have this taken away, and it's like your dreams are crushed. And then they read these emails from our school district, like so many others. They are basically, as long as you get above a D, you're passing, and they're giving you like an A basically in the class. It's pass or fail, no letter grade. So they're just giving you 0.5. I mean, good for her. Her grade point average is going to jump above 4.0. Thank you at the end of for her college transcripts. But it's frustrating. I mean, for athletes, for a little bit of everybody, just only imagine what they're going through. So it's good that you brought that up. I mean, is there anything that we could do now that we're going to go into this recovery phase? You mentioned that earlier in the interview about recovery. So what do we do as we go through? So obviously, you see a lot of people throughout the country right now are really into the Michael Jordan special, right? Because it's like, it's kind of a good little refresher recap. People are obsessed with that. I think it had the highest, I hate to break the president's bubble, but that documentary beat his ratings that he's had in his press conferences. More people watch Jordan's documentary Sunday than before. Anything that I couldn't resist to give the president a hard time. He loves to tell us his ratings. But what do you think, people? As we close out here, what's some insights for people to kind of, how do we come out of this and get used to that life as normal as we had it, March, what was it, right? It was like March 10th is when it feels like. I know I was in Nashville, like beginning of March. It's not going to go back to normal. So how do we kind of make it normal in our world now?
The recovery phase, especially in something this large, expect it to be very confusing. Expect it to be frustrating, because we are all going to be re-entering life at a different rate, at a different time. So as you're listening to the news at this point, you really have to have a high tolerance for hearing that some states may be moving faster than others. So that's one point. The second point is, there are, for as many people that want to return to life, there are just as many people that are too afraid or too anxious to go back out and go back to work or send their kiddos back to school. So they're not looking to end this anytime soon. And that is about their anxiety. So for now, we just need to sort of marinate in the confusion of the recovery phase, and just have some patience with it. You want to take the guidance of your state and what your governor is telling you. And then you also want to use your good common sense. To be honest with you, with my own son, if Governor Cuomo told us today schools are open for the rest of the year, I'm not sending my son back for the rest of the year. So, you're using your good common sense. And hopefully you'll want to have me back on your show, and this is a conversation we can continue to have, because recovery
Absolutely.
is going to be an ongoing process for the next few months at least.
I agree with you, and yes, absolutely, you're coming back on. I have no choice. There's no choice in that. You're coming back on. If you come back on, you're coming back on. I'd like to have you on weekly. I know you already have one weekly commitment, but I don't want to take the weekly commitments. I promise. I don't need John like Eric seriously taking my guess. Not that he would ever say that. He's a great guy. So.
Figure it out.
He'll figure it out. He'll get to it. But I do thank you for coming on. That was amazing insight. I think people really need to hear that. Go back and listen to this and really take notes on the mental aspect of this. I mean, a lot of us don't understand it and understand life as we know it is not going to be the same. It's not a flip the switch. I keep reading that, and I love that analogy that people keep talking about. There isn't a magical switch or a button that we're able to do. And I mean, that's something I think America needs to get used to. Life as we know it is different. Social distancing, unfortunately, isn't taking yourself off social media anymore. It's actually staying away from people. We need to teach the people in Florida what it means. They seem to be confused by it still, that yes, they have their rights to go back to work, but they can't seem to stay away from each other. So,
can I leave you with one sentiment that I just love, and I'm building all of my segments around it? We are in the same storm, but not the same boat. So everybody's going to come out of this with their own story to tell. So
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. We should run with that. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. We'll close with that. Was the best note to close on. That's like mic drop, walk off stage kind of stuff. So thank you so much for coming on. Let's get you back on. If we get you back on next week, love to have you back on. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Before you go, tell everybody how they can connect with you, though.
Oh, absolutely. Please reach out to me if you're struggling emotionally. If I can't help you, I will link you to somebody who can. I can be reached at jenspractice1974@gmail.com. And that's JENS practice.
Perfect. Outstanding. Look how awesome that is. So thank you for coming on, and we'll chat with you really soon.
Okay.
Have a good one. Thanks. So great first guest. That leads us, well, that's kind of our guest. I don't know. What would we call Jeff? Like half of guest? I would never tell a professional athlete they're half of a guest. He's a diehard Bucks fan, so you have to let him on. Our next guest, he appeared last week. You probably remember him from last week's show. Good friend of mine. He's going to come on. As you've seen in the news, you've probably heard people. We have a lot more time on our hands. People are creating things, TV shows for social media, and podcasting is one of the big things. Most of us know the great Joe Rogan and his podcast. I'm bringing Matt Kuchera on. He is the host of Vet Pivot, which is a great veteran-based podcast. In my world, it's the best veteran podcast out there. Don't tell Rod Rodriguez, who also has a podcast and will be on tomorrow, but that's okay. He's, you know what? He'll get over it. He knows. I'll tell him his is the second best. But Matt's going to be joining us. We're going to go over what podcasting is, how to get into it, and see if, why you should be listening to these things. I listen to 2 podcasts every day, Joe Rogan being one of them. Absolutely love him. And the other is a twist between some Vet Pivot. I love Lewis Howes. I have a whole bunch, but we're going to bring Matt into the room now. Matt, how you doing, bud?
What's going on, Eric? How are you? Long time no talk, buddy.
I know. It feels like I was just texting you a few hours ago. Oh, okay. I was. But it's good to have you on, bud. Great to have you here. Talking about podcasting. Before we get into it, I know we were having this conversation. We'll have it online because everybody wants to hear. You also watched the first 2 episodes of Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary.
I did. And, admittedly, I am not the biggest basketball fan, and being an alumni from Purdue, that's a little bit of a bad thing to say, but it's never really been my sport. But I love the the story of Michael Jordan and the Bulls and the business side of it with Jerry Krause. And there's a lot of storylines there that are fun to follow, that are outside of basketball and just more so in the, interpersonal relationships and skills of a business. So I think it's been really fascinating.
Yeah. I think one of the big things that I took away from that, number one, if I could pan my camera around in my office, you would see a lot of Michael Jordan memorabilia. I love the man. Actually, I had a Wings poster. If you remember, it's the one with his arm stretched out holding a basketball in his right hand. I had it as a teenager. It is actually in my office. It sits above the doorway in and out of my office. I'm a 5-year-old. I kept my post. I didn't keep it. I bought it new. But Jordan is one of those. But I think one of the takeaways I took from it was Scottie Pippen's story, right?
Yes.
To hear GOAT, Michael Jordan, say without him, he would have been no one. And to hear Scottie tell his story that he walked on at Central Arkansas University and he was their equipment manager.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's a hero story.
The rise of Scottie Pippen, and really sad that he didn't get what was due to him. With the owner of the Bulls organization not being willing to renegotiate his contract, and the breakup of that team sort of started in my eyes either Phil Jackson or Scottie Pippen, but really those two individuals were kind of the key pieces that brought down that empire dynasty, if you will.
Absolutely. So let's jump into what we had you here for, not talking about Michael Jordan. We could talk about Jordan all day. And in fact, next week, I'll tease a guest. Next Wednesday, we actually have a CBS radio, national CBS, Steve Stafford's going to be on. We're going to be talking a lot about sports that day. So come on and join us, and we'll do like one of those panels like on, ESPN. We'll just go nuts and just talk about sports. But I want to talk about podcasting with you. As I led in at the beginning, you're the great host of one of my favorite podcasts, Vet Pivot. And I've been looking at the numbers, 30-40% increase in podcasts over the last 8 weeks. Why? I mean, we get it. You run a podcast. You're like, yeah, I love them. Sure. Why should the average person be listening to a podcast? What are the benefits to podcasting?
Podcasts, there's two benefits. I think if you want to listen to a podcast, there are benefits to listening to a podcast. You get an intimate, authentic relationship with the host and whoever their guest is or whatever content they're putting forward. So it allows you to learn sort of at your own pace, right? It's a little bit different than listening to the radio in that you're getting more long form of segments or more niche down type material. That's one of the big things about podcasting is that if you want to be successful, you can't be too broad, whereas a radio station or something along those lines has to be broad scoped and capture as much audience as possible. A podcast really wants to drill down into the nitty gritty or the niche, into the weeds of things, so that you're getting a better, more robust explanation of what that topic is. If you're someone that is putting out content, or if you're a blogger, a business, a church, whatever you are, if you don't have that podcast as sort of a branch of how to get your message out there, then you're alienating part of your target audience. And that, there are, like you said, a 30 to 40% increase in people listening to podcasts right now. It's just a great way to increase your exposure, to talk more about your area of expertise, to increase your, SEO, your search engine optimization. There's all kinds of areas where you can improve your business by having a podcast. And oh, by the way, it's not that hard to get up there, in your office at home and talk about what you know.
Awesome. That's good insight. So, I mean, let's kind of dive deeper into this.
Sure.
A lot of people say, well, I see the jokes. Everybody wants to start a podcast.
Right.
And one of the things I've read is people usually do about 5 episodes and dump out, right? They just think that I think everybody thinks this about everything, whether it's starting a live streaming show on Facebook or YouTube or any one of these platforms. We had George Bryant on and Joel Comm on Monday, and they both kind of talked about this. And so did Jordan Gelber. When we're all talking about, you just have to do it. And it's not a like, boom, you have it. You have to be able to understand your first podcast. What did your first podcast, how many listeners did you have? You remember?
Yeah. So I think we had maybe 70, which I thought was like, wow, that's a great success, you know, to have 70 listeners on your first episode of the show. But
Impressive.
really, I mean, we were really, really fortunate. I always put a lot of work into booking good people, interesting people to bring onto the show that the listeners can learn something from. And we had just happened to, on a whim, I reached out to Seth Castle, author of, Why Is Dad So Mad, which is a great children's book about, explaining PTSD to a kid. And he had got national media exposure over writing that book. He's an Army veteran. His wife is also a veteran, and they both struggle with that PTSD issue. So this one was one where there was already some significant traffic behind the messaging and behind what he did. So to bring him on and for him to be so gracious to come on the show on this new podcast as our inaugural guest was really a blessing for us. It helped kind of kickstart and launch. And as you know, once you start to book at a certain level with people with a certain amount of exposure, it gives some clout to what you're doing and other people want to be part of that. So Seth kind of kickstarted that for us. And that's, him sharing that with his audience is one of the reasons why Vet Pivot really started to gain traction very early on. And, we had other good guests, people like Eric Mitchell. That's and, even better. His wife, Lucy, came on.
I would go with her before I would go with me.
That's right. Yeah. So, it really is something that can help get your message out there, but it also connects you with people that you never would have thought in a million years would be a good business connection. But then you have this opportunity to talk to them for half an hour, 45 minutes to maybe an hour. My show tends to run a little bit longer on the scale of podcasts, where I don't really put a time limit on it, but I'm not also going marathon styles like Jocko and Joe Rogan, that 3.5 hour podcasts. I just don't have the time to do that. But you end up forging some relationships that are really long lasting business relationships, which has been really good for me and for Vet Pivot.
I love that. That's some great insight into podcasting. We get that question a lot, especially in the life flip media on our agency side. People asking, I want to start, or I want to get on podcasts. So let's go with that question. We have some time before we bring on our next guest. Dr. Jeff's going to come on next.
Awesome.
But tell people, a lot of people out there are trying to get their business out there, and maybe starting their own podcast isn't their thing, but they want to be a guest on a podcast. And I know, unless you have somebody who feeds you guests, and sometimes you guys are blessed and have a publicist in your hip pocket who will fire people to you, but not everybody has that. Membership has its privileges, as I always say. But what is a recommendation for folks to become guests on podcasts? Obviously, it's probably a little bit easier than getting on national TV. Any suggestions, recommendations for folks out there want to get their business of exposure and get on podcasts?
So there's services that will market you to podcasters and do that work for you, but it's really just as simple as sending an email or, connecting. A lot of podcasters are the ones that are really active in it. They will be very active on social media. So inbox them on an Instagram or a Facebook page, or, there's just find out where they're most active. I get a lot of requests on LinkedIn to be part of the show. And I do a lot of my homework that way, starting the conversation there and then drilling down deeper into the message that person wants to convey on the show. And then I bring them on. So if you want to be a guest on a podcast, it's just a matter of reaching out and asking the question. And don't be discouraged if you don't hear back or you hear no. It's not that you're not a good fit for podcasts or that your message isn't good. It's, if you go back to my previous point, podcasts are about niching down into a specific area because you're trying to hit a specific demographic that's really in depth on that subject matter. So it may just be that your story in particular doesn't fit into that niche, and it's about finding podcasts that do. And so if you are that person that wants to be a guest on podcasts, start doing some research on podcasts in the areas that you want to be known for or you want your message to be out to, and reach out to those podcasters and say, hey, I'd love to be on your show. This is what I bring. And then, of course, there are, like I said, there's services, email services, there's guest lists, there's things that you can go to, like seminars and stuff that will actually put you out there to a broader audience as well. So there's a lot of ways to get on shows, but the truth is you just kind of have to hustle and do it.
Oh, that good old hustle work. You mean nothing in life is free. It's kind of the theme this week. We've gone with, I mean, we had 3 guests on Monday that they really hammered that point home. I mean, Joel Comm, George Bryant, one of the most amazing guys I know, talking about that. You're one of my favorites to always talk about it. Jordan drove that point home also. So again, folks, the motto here, and this is why we have this show, is that I'm putting on people who actually do the work. They're not just some pretty face they're actually doing the work, and they know how to get to that point. So again, nothing in life is easy. I mean, we both know that. Matt's background is he's a United States Air Force veteran, was a drill. You guys are drill sergeants in.
That's right. We are military training instructors.
The Air Force can't even be normal and have drill sergeants or drill instructors. We're military training instructors. Yeah,
that's right. So make no mistake, though, we're drill instructors for the Air Force.
It doesn't sound tough, though. I got to tell you, brother, military training instructor doesn't really make me go, darn, dude. You want me to? Do you say pretty please do push-ups? I mean, I'm just curious. Sorry.
That's the Air Force's way of bringing people in, right? They're like, hey, these aren't drill instructors. They're military training instructors. But we still wear the hat, and we still yell, and we still make you do push-ups. So,
are you called a recruit still? I'm just curious.
Are we what?
Or did they call them recruits still, or are they like military trying to join the military people? I don't know what soft name you could be.
In the Air Force, we call them trainees. You know, you're a trainee. Yeah, that's.
Join the Air Force. Be kinder or gentler to everybody. Have the best chow. Have your own room. Hey, during boot camp, make phone calls to home. Go shopping.
That's right. Absolutely. Sundays are for pedicures. Spa days, spa Sundays. So.
I love you, Air Force guys, because apparently there's flying boats. We learned that today. Flying boats. Thank you,
best kept
President Trump, of the military. Flying boats.
Was the flying boat? Yeah.
Hey, somebody got mad at me about that. They were like, Eric, I don't find the humor in this.
Well, okay.
I was like, I found a lot of humor in it. I'm a Marine, so deal with it. You didn't even serve, and you're bashing on me. And then I sent him a picture of a Sea Whiz, and I was like, look, the Navy's not too concerned.
Yeah.
Any one of us that served in the Corps, we know that when we serve on these little Navy ships, they got cool weapons. They blow shit up.
That's right.
So anyways, bud, I got to get going.
Awesome.
I got 2 more guests to get through. We've got Dr. Jeff coming up, and then we're finishing out the show. Of course, we have to put a Marine on the show.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that, Matt? Because when he went to boot camp, the Marine rapper, he had drill sergeants, not military instructional people.
Yeah, that's military training. Yeah, that's
military training.
It's like being a sniper in a sense, right? Because you're kind of
the Air Force is like being a sniper or Marine.
Well, no, being a military training instructor because you're kind of subdued, that people don't really take you that seriously, and then you show up and you're like, oh crap, no, they're actually drill instructors.
That's just because you're in the Air Force, man. That's the only reason. Sorry, I'm only saying you can't. Nobody else. Don't go say this to people. If you weren't in the military, please don't. I highly encourage you not to go bash on another branch. It's not well for you because we will hit you. That's just how we are. We give each other a hard time because we can. The Air Force knows this.
Right.
Anyways, bud, we'll have you back on next Wednesday on your usual slot. We just love having you on every Wednesday, and it's kind of your slot now. So let's move on. But thanks for coming on, bud. I'll talk to you real soon.
All right, see you, Eric.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks.
We're going to bring on our next guest, and then we have one more guest after that. So we're going to go through. So we're saving the best for last. Obviously, I always put the Marines last because we're the best. So I got to put my Marine guy on. So while you're waiting, make sure you go check out. I'm going to hype him just because I was laughing because before we put on our final guest, we have one guest before, but I have to tell this story because it's fresh in my head. I share an office space where my back wall is my 13-year-old son's room. And this morning, my kids, we were all eating breakfast together, and they asked, who's on the show today? And I was telling them, and I said, the Marine rapper. And they were like, is he on like platforms? And they said, yeah. So they went and looked him up on Apple Music. And I heard the Star Spangled Banner, which is one of the songs I've been working out to for years, playing. And my son comes in my office and he goes, I didn't know that there was a third verse in the Star Spangled Banner and the national anthem. And that's because the Marine rapper talked about it very kiddingly at the end about karma and that It was a great verse. Go listen to it after the show. Don't listen to it now. That's messed up. We're supposed to be watching us. So I'm going to bring our next guest on. It's Dr. Jeff Mcgee coming on. Look, I didn't mess up your name, so you should be really happy. Bring on our next guest. Hey, how you doing,
sir? You did good. I love your show. I love all the ideas flowing from phenomenal personalities here today.
I guess they're phenomenal. I mean, we just had that Air Force guy on, or wait a minute, military instructor.
Hey, and he was still wearing his blue shirt, so it's ingrained in him. It's his blue DNA.
Those Air Force guys, I love them. I can't resist to give them a hard time. I love everybody in the Air Force. It's hard for a Marine. I had no idea that's actually what they call their instructors. So that's totally new to me. So you saw that reaction for the first. I always assumed you're either a drill instructor, like the Corps, or you're a drill sergeant, like the other branches do. If you're a coastie, let me know if you don't call that. I don't even know do coasties even go to boot camp. I just think
they're trying to be cutting edge and in the corporate groove of titles. That's what they're working for.
I guess. Like I know all of my drill sergeants. I graduated boot camp November 11th, 1994. That'll age me quite well. And I could tell you I know all three of my drill sergeants' names still to this day, and I remember their voice like it's the sound of God. After everything I did, after several years of service in the Corps, I still remember their names. Let's jump in to talk about you. You tell everybody a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump in.
I appreciate that. I grew up to be a journalist, and that was my passion in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was born back to picking on the blue. My father's retired Air Force, and I have two older brothers who retired from the Army. So I grew up in Colorado, a little bit of a farm boy, a little bit of a city boy. Went to college on a cross-country scholarship way back in the day. That's the running side, athletic side. Not too much of that today. But journalism was it. And spent a couple years in Kansas City, broadcast news, print journalism. One day I just got really discouraged with how negative and biased and bigoted journalism really is. Not that it's that way today. So I left it cold. And whenever you're unemployed in America, there's always one job ready for it. It's called sales. If you're not good, you won't keep it, but there's always a sales job. And that really changed my whole life because sales opened up my personality to a new way of looking at people and products and lifestyle. And from there, it's been a quick ride through owning companies and selling companies and having my own business. And really, I focus with leaders and I work with corporate executives, business owners globally, as well as military generals. And I talk about leadership and selling. So that's the short ride on me. And I've been publishing a magazine for 30 years called Professional Performance Magazine. And your viewers can get digital copies or hard copies if they want. We get phenomenal interviews just like you do here on a podcast. I sit down and do it in an interview standpoint about what success is always about.
Outstanding. I love talking about leadership. Leadership is one of those things that people are either good at or bad at. I always kind of get after people when I hear them talk about and what drives this conversation is the Captain Rosier, right? You're talking about what happened on board the aircraft carrier. You see it in the news feed that we're sharing. Those sailors are still testing positive. So to me, leadership, and I got into an argument with somebody and they didn't like what I had to say, but I said, a true leader and something that's taught from day one to most of us, especially if you were enlisted, is that you take care of your troops. Your troops comes first. That is the most important thing. Rank is a great thing to have. It doesn't make you a great leader. Just because you have a fancy title of president or CEO, that doesn't do anything. So
all the title does is give you a kind of temporary pass on things. But you're right, the leaders. Yeah, I've had the chance to interview every president since President Reagan, and the last three have been in. I've done magazine interviews with the last three presidents. You talked about Michael Jordan a minute ago. From star athletes to barons of business globally to actors, actresses, athletes, gold medalists. And what's always interesting is that when you look at success, the leader in you is exactly what you just said, Eric. Leaders understand it's about the orbit they're in. It's the people, it's the connections, it's their team that allows them to be successful. So in reverse, I have to help them to be more successful. On your way up that trajectory to the top of any goal, you're kind of measured on your own efforts. But boy, you're right. When you become a leader, it's no longer about you, and that's what gets people in trouble. Harry Truman made a great comment. Forget the political party. That basically, it's amazing what you can get done when you don't care who gets credit for it. But when a leader has to be the one taking credit for everything, and there's some exceptions to my next statement, that usually holds the team back. So again, just how do you look at it, and are you willing to do the work? The one problem we have in the United States, I think we own more than any other country I travel to, and I've been to over 30 countries speaking and training and doing work. You know, we have this long line of people in America that are envious of what someone else has accomplished. And instead of celebrating it and learning from it, we make it like a political sport to knock them down. But I've never seen the line of people that are envious of the amount of work it took to become successful. And so that's another key point to, again, even the theme of your podcast here, to the point, what really matters and what's really the focus point. And this pandemic right now has given us a great chance to recalibrate back to, what trajectories lead you to success and what trajectories are going to hold you back. And I even wrote a book on that.
Outstanding. I mean, that truly, one of the top things that you've said a lot, so it's not like that's the best thing you've said. I sound really bad when I say it that way, but
you're good.
One of the big things, right? People, I do see it. It's in a lot of communities, a lot of groups. People really love to punish those who are successful. It's very weird to see. I don't understand it. I've tried to grasp it from communities that I'm part of to communities my friends are part of. It's everywhere. Somebody said, "Oh, it's just this community or that." It's not. And it's disappointing to see, because as America, we, having fought for my country, as well as, a lot of our guests are former, veterans. We're, this is a weird world to come back to, where we're like, if you're successful, you're bad. And that doesn't make sense.
It really is.
You're always going to have haters, right? I mean, we've heard about haters a whole life, and I don't give two craps about haters. I kind of shrug them off and go, whatever, hate away. That doesn't mean anything to me. But I think
every time there's a major crisis or problem on the planet or our country in our neighborhood, there's a line a lot of times. I'll even put it out on social media. It's not very polite, but we get exactly what we condone. And Eric, you're exactly right. If we condone people that bitch for a living, you're going to have a whole lot more of them. And what amazes me, and again, you see this on all sides of age and ethnicity and politics and religion. So no one really owns this corner. The challenge, though, is looking at it different. Gallup organization did a research model recently. It came out. It didn't get much play in national news because it basically would blow up most everyone's views, where they looked at, thousands of businesses, which made this a massive survey. Normally, Gallup will survey, about 100 people. They'll put that out on CNN or Fox News and everyone's excited. But the problem is, if you surveyed 100 idiots, then your survey is going to be, 100 idiots. So when they surveyed thousands of businesses, that means tens of thousands of people in the sampling, which makes it much more valid. It basically said three things. Whenever you look at a group, that group will fall into three demographics. Roughly 56% of any group are basically complacent or disengaged or neutral. So they're going to go whichever way they're influenced to go. So the influencers are, therefore, the other two subgroups. Roughly 15% of any group. So again, I have 100% of a group. 56% are your neutral or disengaged or complacent. 15% are actively disengaged. These are people every day that get up and just bitch. So I won't mention the national news by name, but if you think about it, a lot of the newscasters are not journalists anymore. They don't even have to do any research. They just get up, get out of bed in the morning, and just look at something that's happening, and they just complain all day long. That's easy, and that's our point about knocking people down. But 29% of people are actively engaged. So I use that model when I work with leaders and military leaders. How do you look at new people coming in? You interview and vet to find out which of those three camps do they come from. Look at an organization you walk in the door, because you can shut down 15%. But here's how you do it in America or in any business. The way you shut down the people that complain for a living is you hold them accountable. No one ever does that. No one ever holds anyone accountable, because everyone, in essence, goes off on a tangent. So if we start holding people accountable with respect, then they'll learn how to either shut up or put up and quit making fools of themselves. But a lot of people don't know they're being stupid because their emotion has overcome them. It's just like if I want to picket and complain about something, going to a congressman or senator's office to complain is stupid, because you and all the other people that are protesting outside, if you want to make change, show up in their front yard. I mean, you go to their home, you and 500 of your friends, and you'll see change happen. So you've got to be smart about how you look at these things. But we celebrate mediocrity. You go to a great restaurant, last example. You go to a great restaurant where they bring you the bill at the end and expect you to put a tip. Well, do you put that gratuity there even when you get mediocre service? And most people do, yes. And do you give someone maybe a little bit more of a gratuity even when they didn't really do a phenomenal star? Yes. And so what we do as a society is we hold people back that are successful, and we push people forward that are mediocre or failures. We've got to stop doing that. And this pandemic, I think, is a great wake-up call to give everyone a chance to recalibrate back to what does great really look like. there's going to be some good people that are going to lose their jobs out of this, but there's going to be a whole lot of mediocre people going to lose their jobs, and they're going to have to now start to stand up, step up, and bring something to the marketplace, because there's not going to be a free handout. I mean, you can only write checks from the Treasury for so long before there ain't no way of cashing them. So again, it happens for reasons. There's math behind it.
Good.
Sorry, I talked a little slow.
Woo! Woo! God, wow, this has just been that show where everybody's doing mic drops before they walk off stage.
There you go, baby.
Well, I don't want to keep you much longer. I got to get to our next guest, our final guest. I don't want to keep the poor man waiting.
Thank you much for letting me come on the show.
Thank you for coming on. I'd love to have you on real soon. I mean, just
Anytime.
amazing knowledge. You're inspiring, my friend. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your. I can speak English, I swear. Great rest of your week, and God bless.
You too. Thank you for the time, and good luck to our listeners out there with what you do next. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. So we're going to our final guest of the day. Once he's ready, I can see him in the green room, so I know if he's ready or not. Yeah, he's almost ready. So we'll be bringing on our final guest here momentarily. Excited to bring, like I led to before, Dr. Jeff. The Marine rapper is obviously, you gave it away from the name. He's a Marine, combat vet. You can check out his music, owns an amazing music production company. I'll let him jump into all that. You can check out his music everywhere, Apple Music, Spotify. Well, those are the two I use. I'm sure he can list where they're all at, but those are the two I have subscriptions to, so that's where I listen. You should check out his music. It's really good. He's just really talented. I've been listening to, like I said before, I've been listening to one of his songs in my workout journey. It's always in there. It's I put it at the end of my run because it kind of fires me up to get through. I have a hill I live on, so when I run up this damn hill, I need something to like piss me off. Its music doesn't make you angry. It's just really good. You have to be Marine to understand that whole statement. But I'm going to bring him on now. Without further ado, the Marine rapper. What's up, bud?
What's up? What's up? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great. I had to make sure all my mic and stuff was hooked up. It was crazy. My computer actually demolished today, but as Marines, we have to adapt and overcome, right?
That's what they keep telling me all the time.
Thank you so much for that hype at the beginning. I really appreciate that. Yeah, like my music, I want people to be hyped up, and just be able to be motivated throughout their run or their day or whatever. So I really appreciate those kind words.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I get asked because, I'm a publicist, right? So I get asked the question. They're like, what the hell is an 0311 doing in the media? So I turn around and put this on you, right? Because you were a dopey bad. You were a photographer, right?
Kind of. So I was a combat correspondent. So if you saw Full Metal Jacket, which I know you did.
No, never. What movie is this? You're mentioning a movie I'm not familiar with. So that's what you did. So how many years do you have?
How many years?
Oh, deployments.
Oh, deployment. I have two combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan each.
Awesome. I mean, as a Marine, I'm like, awesome. Other people are like, oh, that sounds horrible. So let me ask you, what got you? Have you always, has music been part of your life even before the Corps?
Well, actually, I am a big rock fan. So I never really got into rap until I was 18.
Oh, shit.
I Oceanside, California, and that's like the mecca of extreme sports and boarding and rollerblading and biking and all that, because Tony Hawk's not too far away. He's in the next city over in Carlsbad. So he just worshipped him, and we love skateboarding. And usually when you skateboard, rock music goes with it. So I listen to a lot of In Chains and Nirvana and a lot of grunge and stuff like that. But I started to get into rap music when my mom's friend came over, RIP. She came over, she's like, hey, you're black. And I'm like, yeah, I know. She's like, you look music? I was like, huh? But she gave me a CD of Notorious B.I.G. And that was my first introduction to rap music. And I would say that would be the possible best one that you can give somebody. Like B.I.G., he was just unapologetically him. He was just like, hey, I'm fat, I'm ugly, but I'm me and I have confidence. Nobody can tell me any different. And if you look at it, it's kind of a parallel with the Marine Corps, because a lot of us are different shapes and sizes, but no one could defeat us because our mentality is so strong, and we go into houses and clear them with 4 guys. You being a grunt, you know this. We go in the house because our ego is so big, our enemies are scared. You know what I mean? So Notorious B.I.G. is kind of like a grunt. They just have that kind of like motivation. They have that internal confidence, and that's why I love it, and that's why I think it's so so amazing. Hip hop can just give you a feeling, and that was my first introduction to rap. But I never really got into it big until 18 years old, and then after 18 years old, I got in the Marine Corps, and I put everything on pause because you can't be deployed and be a rapper. You're like doing combat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My second deployment, I had like a deployable type of setup, but I wasn't really serious until I started to get out 2 years before I got out. And then I was just like, okay, I think I can do something with this. And they're like, you're going to be a rapper. You're going to get out of the Marine Corps to be a rapper. I'm like, yeah. And and it's funny now. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get out and be a rapper. They're like, yeah, right. That will never work. And so
that is too funny. I mean, I totally get it. So let me ask you this. So you listen to rock music. Now,
yeah.
I have this ongoing joke. Now, I am not, anybody who's watching, please don't judge me. I'm not a big fan of country music.
Yeah.
But in the Marine Corps, good Lord, did I figure out country music. So my wife, she didn't know me when I was in the Corps.
Yeah.
And she always laughs because she'll hear a country song come on, like George Strait, or one of these like old, like Garth Brooks or something. And she's like, how do you know every word to this song? I'm like, join the military, join the Marine Corps. You walk down a barracks hallway and you learn music of the guys you're serving, especially being in the infantry. We're really close to each other. We know everything. I mean, that's how I knew about Selena. Remember the great artist Selena?
Yeah.
Like my roommate was from like El Paso, Texas, Lee Trevino, little tiny guy. And he introduced me to that. And I got into Tejano music, and like I cried when Selena died. I was like, oh my God, she was so talented. So it's funny that you bring that up about music. So that actually takes away one of my questions, because I listened to your Apple playlist that they had a few years ago where they selected.
They featured me. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally explains your playlist. I was like, how the hell does this dude have ultimate rap music on here and then a bunch of really good classic rock? Like,
yeah, I love rock music. I just love rock music. Even my style, you see, even the way I dressed, it's like that. And the people are like, oh, he's different. He's a different type of rapper. It's because I love rock music. I just love it. In my vein.
Wrong with that. So did you hear the news? I don't know if you're a Beastie Boys fan. I grew up on the B-Boys, love the Beastie Boys to death, find them to be kind of one of the best artists to ever walk on the earth, just because they can play so many different kinds. They come from a punk background and then got into rap music to piss their parents off. Apple TV is dropping a documentary of them on April 24th. I'm like, the Jordan documentary is already enough excitement for me. And then Apple TV does that today. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be done this weekend. So are you a Beastie Boys fan or?
Bro, yeah, I do love Beastie Boys. And also I'm in a group called Space Force. It's me and two other veterans, and it's three of us. And so like Beastie Boys and Outkast are two bands that we look up to when we create. So we have like a kind of like atmospheric, spacey type of sound when we get together, and that's why we called it Space Force. But yeah, I'm a big Beastie Boys fan. I love them. Intergalactic. Oh man, there's so many. Yeah, No Sleep Till Brooklyn and all that.
That was my first concert ever was the Beastie Boys and MC.
Yeah, they're just.
How hard is to top that? I mean,
yeah. You said does any artist top that?
No, but that was my first. What was your first concerts? I mean, obviously it was a rock concert.
My first concerts were actually not a rock concert. It wasn't my first concert. I think it was like Lil Wayne, like actual concert that I went to.
Oh, wow.
So my first rock concert was Alice in Chains, like my favorite rock band of all time.
Rooster, baby.
The Rooster, because I don't know if you've seen my hair. My mom even says I look like a rooster. And then Rooster, the song, it talks about the military. And I love that. It just,
yeah, I love it. Story. Everybody knows. I mentioned my son. He's my music fiend. He listens to a little bit of everything. But of course, when he rides around in the truck with me, he listens to what I listen to. So he's been, in Doctor. I love Metallica. But we were listening to Rage Against the Machine. You were in the Corps, so you probably know what Rage Against the Machine song I'm thinking of that we used to play on field day.
Rally Around the Family with the Pocket Full of Shells. That one? Which one? Yeah,
that one. But it was funny. I hear it coming out of his room. My wife's like, great. Now I get to hear, F you, I won't do what you tell me. I'm like, hey, that's our field day song. And that's a famous Marine Corps song. That's our song that we used to play for anyone who was, examining our rooms on that. Anyways, I don't want to talk about that. What I want to get to is you have a production company, right?
Yeah.
You're making music. You recently, in the last 6 months, released a all veteran compilation, correct?
Correct. So I have a record label called Ninja Punch Music, and all the Marines, if you've ever been NJP'd or Article 15 or anything, when you're NJP, for NJP, it's called Ninja Punch. And I figured when you get Ninja Punch, you have a record. So I named that for my record company. And so I started the record company, and then I was like, hey, everybody might not like rap. And there's a lot more people out there who like country and rock and all that. So I'm going to open it up to a whole platform. And I created a platform called Military Musician. And what that is, it showcases military musicians around the world. It doesn't matter if you play the saxophone, guitar, you're a rapper, you're a singer, you're a rock artist, I feature you. So that's what I do on the platform. But within the platform, I have other labels, and I also produce that record that you're talking about. It's called the Ninja Punch Music Sounds Like Freedom. We did a Kickstarter. We funded it in 3 weeks. We raised $14,000. We got some good sponsors and stuff. And we dropped it. And everybody on there, from the instrumentalist all the way to the vocalist, is a veteran. 100% funded by the military community.
That is freaking, I love that. I watched some of those videos you did with JT and others on Instagram. I've never laughed so hard in my life. I mean, those guys, I mean, Matt Best and JT are hilarious with anything that they've ever done. Then they added you into it. And then I saw people, it was funny. I saw outsiders watching it going, oh, these guys hate each other. And I'm like, no, they don't. No, no.
You know it was all jokes, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I had to go like tell people like, did you see this? These veterans are going at it. And I'm like, Jack Mandival, JT, Matt Best, and Marine Rap. No, they're not. This is all fun.
We're all fun.
There's a big difference between that. So before we wrap up here, tell folks how they can, number one, go find that. I always tell people, I'm of course partial to anything vet, but tell folks how they can go listen to that, support anything that you have coming out. Go support you in any way. Kind of tell folks how to get a hold of you, anything that you want to get out, so we can get folks listening and helping you out, bud.
Awesome, dope. Yo, once again, my name is the Marine Rapper, aka TMR. You can find me everywhere. All of my handles is at the Marine Rapper, because Marines, we like to keep it simple, stupid. Find me at the Marine Rapper everywhere. That means Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Follow me on TikTok. I just started that if you guys want to hear some rants and stuff like that. But at the Marine Rapper will lead you to everything: military musician, Ninja Punch music, everything. So just follow at the Marine Rapper on Instagram to get started. And I show love. I talk back, comment. I'll reply back to that. I love to see what people are thinking, and I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, listen to some music on Spotify and tell me what you think. And I'm the Marine Rapper, and I'm out.
I love it, bud. Thanks for joining us today. I do appreciate you greatly for coming on. Big fan of music. I'm not kidding you. I've been listening to that compilation. Actually, another vet turned me on to that. She actually was on there, Jazz Booth.
Oh, yeah.
So she had her comp on there. Yours was on there. And I know she was doing her cartoon series. And she was like, I got to get the Marine Rapper. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's a Marine that's a rapper. And I'm like, what's his name? And she's like, the Marine Rapper. And I'm like, no, seriously. And you know, she's married to a Marine, number one. Yeah. She gave me that Jazz Booth side eye. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm scared for my life now. Anybody who knows Jazz knows exactly what I'm talking about.
You don't want that side eye. No,
you don't want that. That's scary. Like,
yeah.
She's a badass. Like, it was funny that she was on there and then you were, I was just like, okay. Then I heard your Star Spangled Banner song and but true story. My son did say that came in there. I didn't know that there was like a third verse. I was like,
oh yeah. Everything I do, just real quick, everything I do when I rap, they're all factual. I always do research. That's my journalist background. So even when you hear me do rap back and forth with, the Black Rifle Coffee guys or Jack Manaville, or even when I did a rap about Dakota Meyer and all the heroes, when I do it, it's always factual. So that's why on the Star Spangled Banner, I had to do something factual.
Dude, that song, it's like the best. Anyways, it's my favorite. I know yours, and you're like, dude, stop hyping one song. But much love, my friend. We'll have to have you back on real soon just to talk music. I would love to have you back on real soon. But again, thank you for coming on, my brother. Semper Fi, and have a great week.
Yeah, peace.
Well, that's today's show, folks. That's it. That's a wrap. Put a pin in this and call it done. Tomorrow's guests, I'm excited for it. Tomorrow, as you know, every Thursday is our veteran and first responder show. So every Thursday we have the top of the veteran brands, influencers, folks out there doing amazing things, supporting veterans and first responders, firefighters, and police officers. I'm supporting my Pocket Square folks today with my blue stripe for the boys in blue. But going to have amazing guests tomorrow. We have Jennifer Marshall, United States Navy. She is an actress. You've probably seen her in a small show called Stranger Things as a reoccurring role there. We have Lisa Bodenberg. I'm probably messing up her name also. Lisa Bodenberg is a United States Marine. Yes, I know, another Marine on the show. That makes 4 this week. United States Marine door gunner turned health and wellness motivator and just outstanding fitness person. Going to come on. We're going to talk about mental health, probably BS, and talk about the Marine Corps a little bit, just because, come on, door gunner, just badass. I mean, you're just like, cool, I just want to listen to her. Lisa's going to come on, talk about mental health and what you could be doing and what a lot of our brothers and sisters in arms are going through. So we have that. And then we're going to have Rod Rodriguez. Rod Rodriguez works, does the Stars and Stripes podcast, works for connecting vets, really out there supporting our active duty and our veterans and getting their mission out there. Just incredible. And then finally, put a bow on for tomorrow. We wrap it up with John LaRocchia. John is coming on. He is former New York Fire Department. I always want to say it. Call it NYPD, but that's not what he is. NYF was part of Hazmat 1, and he'll be coming on and talking about what he's doing. We'll talk a little bit about what happened during his time in 9/11. Lost quite a few of his brothers and sisters in the firefighting world, and talk about the organization that he came up to with LaughterSavesLives.org. He is the head of that, doing amazing things. Go check out, just to give them a shameless plug. And then, of course, don't forget Friday, we have a Soprano. You don't want to miss the show on Friday. We got a Soprano coming on. We're going to talk about the Sopranos, talk about what he's doing, maybe get some insight into the show. So if you have questions Friday for your Soprano, go check it out. And also, John Jankwich will be coming on the show. Awesome. And we'll be coming on the show, talk about fitness and what you can be doing to stay in shape while we're stuck in our homes. So thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate you and every one of our guests. Make sure you go find them. I'll put it all in post. Subscribe, share, tell everybody about us. We appreciate you. And I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.